What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Realms of Metal. We've got a killer episode for you guys today. What happened to Barry?
Um, wait,
He's blank screen.
wait a minute. Wait.
There you go.
All
He's
right.
back.
Yeah,
There
I
you
think
go.
I pressed something and it threw me somewhere else.
Okay. What's going on?
We're off
Welcome
to,
back
we're
to the
off to the
Realms of
races
Metal,
now.
everybody. We've got a great episode for you today. We've got two very special guests and one maybe surprise guest later. We'll see how that goes, but he may drop in, he may not. We'll see how it goes. But I was listening to Death, Scream Bloody Gore the other day, and Evil Dead came on, and I just said to myself, how great is this song? This is one of the greatest death metal songs ever written. And I thought it would be cool and a fun video to go through what I thought the greatest death metal songs were, like the most legendary songs. And then I thought about having some other people on the channel to get their perspective too on what they think are the most legendary and their favorite death metal tracks. And this is going to be a lot of fun. We're joined by the one and only Barry from That Goat Metal Show and Go to Mentis. Thanks for joining us, brother.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me, brother.
And George from George G's Room of Rock.
Thanks for having me again, Eddie. I enjoyed doing this. It's very fun to do this.
Love getting together with you guys. So let's start it off. We'll do this in rounds. George, you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I wasn't sure how we work. I just kind of picked the songs from the bands I really like. Is that kind of what you're doing? And
Whatever you think.
I'm going to start off with this one, and it's a band people like to shit on because they don't like the guy, but it's 6 Feet Under.
That's actually a really good album.
I like that record. I really do.
This was like one of the
first album.
This is one of the first bands I got into after Bolt Thrower or Benediction. I just bought this one, and the song I'm talking about is the first song, "The Enemy Within."
Enemy Within.
Oh yeah, that is a badass
That's
song.
Just a killer song, and it starts off good. That kind of jumpstart me with getting into them, and then Cannibal Corpse and all that stuff. I just like the riff in it. What do you call it? Chris Barnes sounds great on this album. He sounds like he should. I mean, nowadays he sounds. I can't even listen to him anymore.
Yeah,
but on this he sounded like he. Yeah. Yeah, but this song I always like. The album is so good, but I think the opening track just sets the tone for it. So that was my first choice. What do you guys?
Good choice, Barry. You're up.
All right. Well, basically, I mean, since we're just going. I mean, I'm just going by my songs itself. The one song that basically put me on the path of death metal when I first heard it was Death's "Pull the Plug." Pull the Plug was like, when I was just getting my steps into metal, doing like the Manowars, Metallicas and stuff. My friend introduced me to Death through Pull the Plug, and I think it wasn't even listening to. We saw the Ultimate Revenge live concert that they had on VHS.
Yeah,
and that's what Pull the Plug was like. That was I said, oh man, I need more of that. And then of course it just, you spiral. It was from Death to every other band that was just coming up from there at that point. But Death's Pull the Plug was like my very first intro into like that sound of death metal, and then the floodgates open up from there. It's a great song. Yeah, and it's one of the original Death songs that never gets tired to you could keep listening to it. You won't get tired of it.
Yeah, Rick Ross on that record too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The leads on that is just, I mean, and this, of course, this is before Death went straight tech death, so right. Still had that element of that brutality that they had at that time.
Cool, man. The first song I heard of besides Evil Dead was "Suffer the Children" from Napalm Death.
Oh, nice.
Something about "Suffer the Children" is so special when that song comes on, and they always play it live. Really, it was the first track I thought of besides Evil Dead. But this was from 1990. This was their third full length, and the first two records that preceded this were like grindcore records. This had much more of a death metal edge to it moving forward from Napalm Death, and it's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that is actually, even though it's considered their straight, like almost death metal record, it is their most controversial because of that.
Yeah,
because I think Earache was the one that was pretty much pushing them to get more into like the death metal sound.
Yep.
And I think that's where some of the conflict in the band started to build up, and members started kind of like, you notice that there was new members coming up every so often after that.
Yep.
Yeah, that. But Harmony, I mean, that when that album stuff, when Some of the Children came on the Headbangers Ball, it blew everybody away.
Brutal, right? It was great.
Oh, I love that song. His vocals on, it's just his vocals were like so underrated. I think Barney's vocals, you know.
I think so too.
Yeah, very underrated.
All right, George, you're up.
Well, since you talked about that album, I actually had on my list, but I had the song Mind Snare.
Mind Snare. It's so good.
That's just the standout track to me on this album. I mean, it's a great album overall. You guys, drove the point home about it, but that song just was really, I don't know, something about it just really hit me. Just was like the way it starts, and like I said, Barney's voice is great on that one. I thought he did a great job on that track on that whole album. So
totally agree.
Definitely. So
you're up, Barry.
All right. Okay, so going more with the influential part of everything, I'm gonna go with Grave. You'll Never See.
You'll Never See.
Yeah, that and I'm sure if you guys have seen my videos of when I talk about my band and the influences that started up Go to Mentis. That album was just on. Every time me and my drummer Frankie would get together, that was our go-to album to listen to hype us up. Yep. It gave us so much. And then after that, we started listening to some hardcore. That's when the whole mix started coming in. And then we just get in there and start writing songs and having a good time. But Graves You Will Never See, that whole album is just a fantastic blend, man. That was one of the best albums to come out of Sweden at that time, I think. Amazing. I mean, some people prefer Into the Grave, but to me, this was like
not me.
Album.
I like You'll Never See much better than that one, actually. I think the songwriting is better on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So You'll Never See for me, that's just an influential album. Well, the album, but the song itself was always something that just gave us that energy to write and do things and create. It was fantastic. Awesome. Great influential song.
My next one is going to be Chapel of Ghouls from Morbid Angel. I think Chapel of Ghouls is a death metal anthem. I really do. I mean, it's evil. The lyrics just stick with you. Ghouls attack the church, crush the holy priest. When we were kids, we used to like sing that song all freaking day in class. Like it was the coolest thing ever. And such a legendary record. I mean, you could pick multiple songs off this record, but Chapel of Ghouls to me has always been kind of a death metal anthem and has always stood out. I love everything about it.
Yeah. Every time I hear that song, I always think about that. I just have a movie stuck in my head that you could just picture everything. You see the ghouls going to the church and slashing priests and all this other cool shit. You just picture it in your head. Oh man, that was one thing about some of those death metal songs where you just pictured a scene in your head when they would sing those songs.
Yep.
They're definitely good for movie soundtracks. For horror movies, but they don't put them on movie soundtracks, do they? Death metal bands, but they should.
Well, but there's been I think there's a few.
Actually, Morbid Angel was on Night of the Demons too with Rapture, and there was there was another song from that record too on there from Covenant on there too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and not a death metal band, but what was Dimmu Borgir? They were on Hellboy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Prodigies of the Great Apocalypse. They had that song on their Hellboy soundtrack.
Cool.
All right, George, what do you got?
Okay, well, I got this one. The band that did appear in the movie, but it's not the lineup, but it's Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I have the uncensored cover because it's a funny story. I have a couple of them with uncensored because when I got these albums, my son was like 6 or 7. And I was afraid he was going to find them and pull up the shop and look at it and freak himself out. I said, I'll buy the uncensored version. That way he doesn't freak himself out wanting it. But the song I picked was Sent Us to Burn.
Ooh, great one.
Nice.
Another one. It's a long album. It's got like 14 songs on this album, which is pretty long for even back then. But that song just kind of just resonated with me. I thought it was just, I don't know if I had a video for that one or not, but it was just a great. George's vocals were great on this one. I think this is one of my favorite albums by them too. So, cool. There you go.
What you got, Barry?
Okay. Basically, I mean, me and you discussed it before we started recording. Malevolent Creations, Coronation. I think that song. Uh, besides the fact that I said it, I know Alex Marquez, fantastic drummer, and I have always said that that album is top notch. I think I look at that album as their Rain in Blood for death metal,
Yeah.
and the drumming that Alex Marquez does on that album is flawless.
Yeah.
And that song there, I just like I hear it, just I hear the drumming intro, and it just forget it, I'm off.
And
off running.
it starts out kind of slow, right?
Yeah.
Coronation, right?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, but that intro in the beginning with the drums,
Ooh.
it's like, oh, it's fantastic. And when I was going, I was listening to that in high school, and that was one thing I used to always bother Alex Marquez about. He says, "Yeah, man, I was listening in high school, making him feel extra old and stuff."
Yeah.
But but yeah, that song, it was another one of my motivational tools. As far as picking apart certain songs that were very influential in my time. But yeah, definitely Coronation from that album from Malevolent Creations. Absolutely great. Retribution, name of the album.
Amazing track, amazing record for sure.
Absolutely.
Underrated band in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been going through their little tough times with accusations and stuff, and a lot of gossip in the media with the guitarists and so on. But look, you know what, man? It's not going to change how you feel about the music. To me, I mean, the music is the music.
Didn't their original singer pass away too?
Brett Hoffman. Yeah. And side story too. I think I told you, Ed. I mean, I don't want to make this video longer than what it is, but the day that he died, he died actually on my birthday.
Oh shit!
Me and my wife were in Arizona visiting Alex Marquez, and I got the call. I think it was at 2 a.m. on my birthday, July 8th. That's when he passed away, July 8th, 2018. And he said we were supposed to meet up with Alex and his girlfriend at the time, and he sent me a message, "Yo, I just got the news from Rhett's wife. He passed away. I'm not feeling good right now. This, that, and the other." I said, "Oh, no problem, man." And I understood. And it was crazy because that's when he was battling his cancer, and it passed away at that time. So it was sad. It was a sad day.
I got to meet him briefly. Back in like 2010, they opened up for Exodus when Exodus was touring for Exhibit B, and they actually played down at the Gramercy in New York City, and we went and we got the meet and greet for Exodus, and they were there hanging out, so we got to meet Phil really quick, and we got to meet Brett really quick, just to say hello, and while we were backstage, but cool memories, man.
Yeah, Brett was a great dude, man. Great guy, man.
So my next up, I could pick probably 5 or 6 tracks off of this record. This is the first deicide. I'm going Oblivious to Evil. I just think that that's probably the catchiest, punchiest song on this record, and it was one that has always stuck with me. And on a record of amazing tracks, like that track sticks out for me. I just love everything about it. The lyrics. Evil night of an evil death. Like it just. The lyrics just flow really well on that song. One of my favorite records ever, the first deicide.
Yeah, that first deicide, it was always something that just caught everybody off guard. It really did, because it's like you went from death to when John Tardy's Obituary with his vocals came out. I was like, oh man, how much more can it go? And then Glenn Benton came out with that satanic sounding, double vocal barrage. It was like, oh my gosh, man, it was more.
Sound like a demon. Like when I never heard that vocal style before, so we were listening to it. He's got those low growls, and then he's got the high raspy stuff. Like it sounded like a demon to us when we were kids.
Love it, fucking love it.
What you got, George?
I got from this album, Death, and I have Inhuman Form.
Nice.
Oh, I love the opening line. People of the earth beware, it's here in human form, and just the way he does. I'm not going to sing the death way, but just the opening line was like, wow, that's freaking awesome. Chuck was definitely one of a kind, and he really started. To me, he started the whole thing. Maybe not as guttural as it's today, but the way he did it was just like perfect. He was in the, I always wonder what he would have done if he had lived.
I know.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic guitarist. Even like I say, even though he went straight into the whole technical aspect of things, but he was a flawless musician.
Yeah.
You
Do
got to
you think,
respect him.
I always ask anybody about this about Chuck. Do you think he eventually would have got out of death metal completely because he was doing Control Denied, and it seemed like he wanted to get like a more progressive, more straightforward metal route than what he was doing?
I think so. I think so. I mean, you. I mean, I don't know if maybe he would have did it for a long period. He probably would have did something similar to what Alex Skolnick did, where Alex Skolnick was doing blues for a few years when he left Testament,
Yeah.
and then he got the itch and came back. Maybe that, who knows? Yeah, I mean, we never would have known if Chuck would have still been alive, he would have did it. But the way he was going, you could see he just
Right.
wanted his playing prowess to probably expand more
Yeah.
to that other side.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're up, Barry.
Oh, am I? Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna go with who was the one when I had one? Oh, okay. Since I mentioned them before, Obituary. All right, from the first out, Slowly Rot, Eternal Bleeding, the first song. That like I said, that when I was introduced to Obituary was when the album first dropped, and I remember just hearing that the horrific sounds in the beginning, and sounds like people in an alleyway, and then John Tardy. It's like
Nobody sounds like John Tardy, right?
Yeah, it was like, man, and his vocals was just beyond, and it caught you off guard. And yeah, it was in some retrospect. I was 14 years old when I first heard it, and it was a little scary. A little scary.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of this? I always felt like John Tardy's vocals were kind of like another instrument in the band, because lyrically they're not a lyrical juggernaut, but he uses his vocals to kind of get a feeling like, like
that was the thing. I think some people did talk about that some of the stuff he did was basically just going with the grain of the instruments. It wasn't something. Yeah, they had a title. Maybe he threw a couple of words in the song,
right.
but it was more like it just went with, it just went with it. It just went with it.
Truly
and it's
unique.
funny because you could tell along the years from the albums, like when you think of like the first two albums, and then you go a little later when he's just you get straight lyrics.
Yeah.
Then you say, okay, maybe there was no lyrics in those first couple albums, but
that's why they never put them in the booklet.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, we knew, but we didn't care because it sounded great.
Yep.
I wonder if there's a band out there that has an album, but there's no lyrics. They just make up song titles. Just go. You know what they're saying anyway. We just make up song titles. No one knows what they are anyway. There's got to be someone out there does it.
It probably is. They're just basically doing horrific sounds with the music, just making an instrumental with a guy doing horrific sounds. I don't see why they wouldn't be.
There's got to be something out there.
All right, next up for me, I'm going to go back to 1991, Immolation, Dawn of Possession, Into Everlasting Fire, another death metal anthem for me. Probably, this is the first death metal band I ever saw live, so I got, a lot of good memories of this record, meeting the band out in in front of the venue. We got to hear them sound check that night as well before the show, and I was blown away. My friend and I went, we were just, our doors were completely blown off, so such a great record, beautiful cover art. I love that evil stuff, and that's what I'm going with. Into Everlasting Fire.
Absolutely, that's a great album. And side note, I did meet Ross Dolan in the supermarket shopping with his mom. I thought that was cool.
He lives down by you, right?
He lived. Basically, Immolation was based out in Yonkers when they first came up, and I think Ross Dolan now he lives in Rochester.
Okay.
So when I met him in Stop and Shop shopping because his mother still lives here in Yonkers.
Okay.
So he would come visit her, take her shopping and stuff, and it was hilarious because I go meet him and we're talking. His mom coming over, showing me the tour dates.
Yeah.
And she's she was like basically breaking everything that he wasn't saying nothing. Oh, you got a show coming up with Incantation over here and this, that. I was like, wow.
That's great.
All right, that's awesome. I thought that was great.
That is
real sweet lady. Sweet lady.
You're up, George.
Okay. This is not probably a popular album by the band, but it's actually my favorite one by them. But it's this one,
Nice.
Aspect. And I love this album. I mean, I know people. This is the only album with the song with the one guy. What's his name? Ron Van Paul, I think his name is, singer.
Oh, Martin Van Buren.
No, he's
Right?
not. He's not on this one.
Oh, he's not on that one. Oh,
No,
that's the
he's
only
not.
one.
This is the one he's not on. That's why it's kind of weird if this would be my favorite one. But
Okay.
the song I picked was "Thoughts of the Atheist" because
All
it
right.
starts off slow and then it gets really fast. Then it's slow. It's just awesome. I don't even just sing it. I don't know. I just like his vocal style in this. I mean, most people don't. I don't know if people like this one or not. I mean, I think it's a great album. No one talks about it because Martin Van Buren just did so all the other albums that people talk about the Rack or Last One on Earth and that but I thought this one was a great album. That song just resonates with me too. So
I'm gonna have to revisit that one, George.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I totally forgot that he didn't even do an album with them. I want because it's just so embedded in your head that Martin Van Buren is the singer from Aspects.
He's the voice of the band, but yeah, it was just, I don't know why he wasn't in the band at that time, but I mean, it was like this was like 90. I don't know what year this was. I have to see. This is mine's a reissue, so I'm not sure what the actually when it came off, but and it's in the 90s somewhere.
Ed, wondering if that's when he was doing that little bit where he was filling in for Bolt Thrower. Was it maybe during that time?
I don't know. I got to look at the discography and take a look.
Well, he didn't do an album with Bolt, but he was filling in for them. I think at one point, doing tours and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm wondering during that same time.
Might be right. Yeah.
Could be.
What you got, Barry?
Oh, okay. All right. Since we just mentioned Martin Van Buren, I'm gonna talk about where his legacy, maybe he became more popular. Pestilence, Out of Body.
Ooh, that was on mine. Yes.
Yes, you could scratch that off. But show if you got the album there, show it because remember I don't have anything that I'm showing. So if you got it there, show it. Yeah, I think Out of Body, man. Man. Consuming Impulse. That is another one of the top tier death metal albums ever made.
And really kind of a death-thrash album, the first two Pestilence albums, So just to give everybody some context, we're doing any subgenre here. It's not just standard death metal, death-thrash, whatever you want. So whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. But Consuming Impulse, that was like a song that got so run. It got run because the way the beginning, the intro.
Yeah.
And then the way the drums blend in and his yelling it's just another very underrated vocalist, Martin Van Buren. I think he still got it even to this day. I mean, because some vocalists, I mean, we've noticed some vocalists don't have the same range or the same sound they did the first couple of albums that they did. But he to this day, he still sounds exactly the same, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
Doesn't he share the vocals with Patrick on that record? Because he was on his way out of Pestilence at that point, wasn't he? I thought that he sung on some tracks and Patrick sung on others, but I could
maybe he did because you know what, Patrick does have some good, decent vocals himself. So I won't, I wouldn't even say that he's not a good vocalist. Because I did like the album they did after that. Testimony of the Agents. I thought that was a good album.
Really good.
That's when they were going more getting technical, but the album itself is good, and his vocals were really good for that album. So
that's when I actually just got the first four albums by them. I never had them before, so I was just getting into them. But really good stuff. Different album too. Especially that Spears album. I like the Spears album. It's very different, but I thought it was very good. Well done.
Yeah, the consuming it, but it's funny because even with everything that's going on with them online, they had their own little AI controversy too. I don't know if you remember that they did, and they actually bent to the fans and they changed the cover or whatever. Yeah. But basically, as when it comes to Pestilence, look, they still do their thing, and I don't have an issue with them musically. I think their music is still good.
Me too, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go with Bolt Thrower. I'm going with Cenotaph off of War Master. Cenotaph is probably one of my favorite death metal songs ever. This is my first Bolt Thrower record, so I got a lot of good memories of it. And great band. And I said it even on the video I did with Skaya from Deadite Delight yesterday. The cool thing about Bolt Thrower is when you ask somebody about them, their favorite record is always something different than yours, which tells you how great their discography is, So go with Cenotaph.
Love that album cover too.
Yeah, amazing, right?
It's great. It's just So Conan the Barbarian kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it, man. Love it. That's the Bolt Thrower has always been that band that they weren't like that super sonic death metal band, but they still had that energy in there to give it to you. Great
They
live
got
band too.
the thickest fucking death metal grooves you can ask for. Like really,
Yep.
they're just
And there was one thing they always had, which me and my friends, when we were younger, we used to listen to the Bolt Thrower albums. You always knew Bolt Thrower's drummer. He had that. He used to play that ride. It was
yeah,
something about the way he
yes,
played the ride that you know
right.
that was his style, and that was it was Bolt Thrower.
Great
We
stuff.
heard the ride. Yep, that's Bolt Thrower.
Yep.
That was Bolt Thrower. It's cool.
Awesome.
Hit us, George.
Oh, okay. So we just talked about the band, but I had it on my next on my list, but I picked this from this album, The Ritual.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Love the song The Ritual. Just the chorus of it. I mean, I can't explain it because I can't explain why I like these songs, but that the way he sings it, it's just a great. The whole album's really heavy. All their albums are heavy, but this one just kind of hit me with that song. I just thought it was really done well. Album's really good. The album cover is great. A lot different than the last one, but I always liked it. We think we discussed it on your on our show together, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Eddie,
did.
about the cover.
We did
Who
do Bolt
painted it or
Thrower.
something?
Yep.
You looked up a paint. Yeah, that song, The Ritual, top notch Bolt Thrower.
Hit us, Barry.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go a little local with one of the brutal death metal bands that was we played a few shows with them back in the '90s. Dehumanized, Prophecies
Ooh,
Foretold.
yeah.
And, I mean, if people don't know about Dehumanized, I mean that intro with it from Independence Day
Yep.
with the aliens talking, and
Right,
that's just that whole song, that beginning of the song just takes you into a wormhole of brutality.
Yeah.
And the drummer George was a really good friend of ours, and his freaking drumming on there is just ridiculous. That he was the one that made. I think he made one. There was a snare drum that most drummers were big on back in the '90s called the piccolo. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the piccolo drum snare. You hear it, but that was more for I think piccolo was more good for like hardcore bands.
Yep.
But he made it sound good with this brutal death metal. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Great fucking song, great album too.
And those kind of bands kind of mesh well with the hardcore scene because they're so fucking, like it's like almost slam in some parts, So
Yeah, it is, and that was the thing with that. And when people, I hear a lot of bad people who criticize some of the slam bands, and you got to understand, it's just I look at slam and some of that stuff similar to the way people will look at rap. It started here in New York at some point.
Yeah.
Suffocation, Internal Bleeding. Those bands were all influenced by a lot of hardcore bands, including death metal, and they influenced a lot of the I guess the hardcore feel into their brutality. So that's where you get that slam. You get the slamming.
Yep.
So a lot of the bands picked up on that. But I just love the fact that they're still talking. It's still death metal. It's still, the lyrics are still brutal. I mean, it's not like they're just talking about their girls and their whores or anything like that. They're talking about death and destruction and mutilation. Yep. It's just you give it with a groove.
Great stuff.
Whatever. It is.
I'm going to show some love to one of our fellow YouTubers here. I'm going to go with Thou Art Lord from Acheron off of Rites of the Black Mass. I remember being a kid at the store and I saw the CD up on the wall and I'm like, damn, that looks evil as fuck. And I was already into evil music with Deicide and Immolation and all that stuff. And I bought it based off the album cover, and it's another record that everybody should have. Thou Art Lord, I think, is one of the greatest, death metal, death doom metal, death black metal, whatever you want to call it, songs of all time. I really do. It's well written. It's just catchy as fuck. The lyrics are awesome. They stick with you. And going with Thou Art Lord.
Yeah, I'm big on Ave Satanas is always one of my favorites in there.
Yep. What do you got, George?
I got my favorite song for this album, this band, Morbid Angel, Abomination. Love the Abomination song. Like when he goes, bow down before the master. Love that line. I think the way he does the dive bombs in it, the way it just flows, the way he sings it, it's just an incredible song.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the the first four Morbid Angels albums, you can't touch them. Definitely. And people were like, I think the first one more than this one usually, but this one's always been my favorite album. That song just one of my favorite ones.
You know what really blows me away off of that record, and it's not even a big deal, but the instrumental, Desolate Ways, like
Oh
that
yes,
acoustic, like
Yeah.
that's a
it's
beautiful
beautiful.
track.
It's a beautiful song.
Holy
I
crap!
think it's what is a little bit of light and shade on that album. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
the first album was more just straight up death metal, but then you have that add that little thing in there. It's like wow.
When you hear stuff like that, it's like, damn, these guys are amazing musicians. It's not just brutality. 100 times all the way. They got beautiful shit like that they include in the records too, and love it.
I think one of the I forget what album is one of the albums in the liner notes. Trey thanks Eddie Van Halen for the influence. So if Eddie Van Halen can even influence death metal, that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I'm sure he's influenced a ton of death metal people, especially the guys who are like really, a lot of the ones who became more technical. I'm sure Eddie Van Halen has always been up there for them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, Barry, you're up.
All right, so we're gonna go with with my fellow original and New York deathcore bands. I say original because I don't say any of the ones that people are blasting now. I mean, people don't even want to associate my band with deathcore, and any of the bands shouldn't probably anyway. But we're gonna talk about your boys, Ed. All Out War.
Ooh,
yes, All Out War. All right, Resist from the Truth in the Age of Lies. That first song. I got when I met All Out War, when I met Mike and them. This was of course before I started Go to Menses, and I got to see them play live down in Manhattan, this small little club called Bond Street Cafe. That's when I met them. I got their demo. I still have it, and that song, Resist. I remember that was a catchy ass song. It was brutal. Yep. It had everything mixed up in there, which was what to me was the formula for deathcore. They had their hardcore style in there, and then they had the grace and the powerful brutalness of death metal.
Yep.
And to me, that's why I told when I start explaining deathcore to people, and I say, well, these are the bands that really started deathcore. This is what deathcore was.
Yep.
That pure death metal with hardcore, and you heard them in the music.
And Resist. Throw some Slayer influence in there too for All Out War.
Absolutely, absolutely. Slayer, and I think Creator, because Mike always talked about Creator a lot. Creator was big influences on All Out War.
In the scene in Middletown, New York, where where I grew up, where all the bands were, like Morpheus Descends and all that stuff. All Out War from Newburgh, and they used to come out to Middletown and play all kinds of shows, and I seen them a ton. And they used to bring all the hardcore kids along with them from Newburgh. And the shows are an absolute melee. I mean, there was one show where, we were at the class in Middletown, and, the pit got out of hand, and, tables and chairs started being thrown around. The fucking cops came. Like, it was unreal. But
they weren't. Was that no? I could have sworn Mike said they weren't banned or anything, right? No.
What's that?
They weren't banned from up there. Were they banned from playing that club or something like that because of that?
It eventually shut down, that club. I forget how many years later, but I seen them there a bunch,
Oh, okay.
But, so I'll go up next. Let's see what we got. I'm going to go Cannibal Corpse, 1991. I'm going with Vomit the Soul off of this one.
Yes.
Always loved Vomit the Soul. This was my first Cannibal Corpse record, and I think Glenn Benton even does guest vocals on that.
Yes, he does.
And a great song. It's one that I love to hear live when it's in their set list and they play it. I don't think they play it too often anymore, but I have seen them live where they've played it, and just great song. Love the album cover. One of my favorite album covers ever. It just screams horror,
Yeah, and his vocal style sure changed from the first album to that. It's like
this is really guttural. I mean, you can't understand a word he's saying without following with their lyrics on this one. You really can't,
That's funny. I'm up.
You're up, George.
All right. I'm going with the title track to this with the shirt you're wearing. Obituary, then Complete.
Nice.
Love the riff in that. And Actually, I didn't realize it because, like I said, back when I got these albums, I didn't read too much to the liner notes, but I said it sounds exactly like the Beneath the Black Sky from 6 Feet Under. I'm like, why does it sound so alike? And I'm like, same guitar player, dumbass. That's why, you know. But I mean, it's a great riff that goes in. It's a great great song. You know, it's just
Amazing.
whole album's great. I mean, I love the way they look on the back too. You got a better view with your record there.
That
But
riff just sticks with you, right? Dun, dun, dun,
absolutely.
dun, 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 like,
Yeah, you just
such
want
a
to bob
great
your head.
riff.
That's it. You're
Yeah.
off with that one. Awesome album.
That was on my list too. So
there you go.
And that's when you could tell that he started doing real lyrics.
Right? Yeah.
You will soon come with me to die. That's it. You knew there's lyrics now. Aww.
Yeah.
I gotta write lyrics now.
Hit us, Barry.
Okay, I'm gonna still go local New York with a fellow Bronx band that don't get too much of their recognition, but they're all over the place now. They're touring. Demolition Hammer.
Oh, nice.
Right? Demolition Hammer, Human Dissection.
Yes.
That's the second track off the album, and I'm like, that song, is basically a freaking mosh beatdown song from beginning to end. You know, just the lyrics itself, which I always wonder about. Damn, and the lyrics is just crazy. You have no choice but to really get engulfed in the lyrics. You know, human dissection of terror. It's just crazy. Crazy.
That's a great song.
But yeah, it's great. It's great, and you know the fact that they hailed from the Bronx when they first started, which was good for us too. That we had a band like Demolition Hammer coming out of the Bronx, and still knowing that they're out, and I think they're still touring. They're doing the festivals and stuff like that that they've been doing, and you know, Steve, the singer, I've ran into him a few times. You know, he has his own business. So I've ran into him a couple of times, and like, you know, with his business and stuff. Really cool dude, and proud to say that they're a Bronx band. Really
I
cool.
met him actually at the Limelight when I was a kid in New York City. We went to see Cannibal Corpse at the Limelight.
Yeah,
they were there just hanging out in the crowd. It was fucking awesome. We just, was just chilling with them for a little bit, and cool dudes, man. Really, really awesome.
Yeah, very. They're very down to earth, and I would like to see if they, I haven't heard anything if they were going to try to make any new music. I think as far as they've been doing now, they've just been playing those festivals and stuff. But it would be nice for them to put out an album. Why not?
Well, that last album came out when? 90 what? 93, 95, something like that. Something
the
crazy.
last album they did was Time Bomb, right?
That was what, 94 maybe, Barry, on that one?
Yeah, somewhere between 94, 95 was Time Bomb, and then they didn't put out nothing ever since.
And that Time Bomb record really has kind of like a... Go ahead, Jordan.
You're talking 30 years since the last album.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That Time Bomb record really has kind of like a hardcore vibe to it, especially compared to the first two records for me. Like,
they slowed down a lot. They did. I remember because Alex Marquez does drumming on that album, and we talked about it. And Alex Marquez, that's like one of his baby albums because he's so happy to play with Demolition Hammer. Yeah. But yeah, it's more groove oriented and it's slowed down. Yeah, it's more but it's not one of the not a lot of people who are the hardcore Demolition Hammer fans don't really like that album. I think it's cool. I think it's all right, for what it is. But I mean, because you hear their first two albums, which is fast, thrashy, and in your face, and then you got this album was like basically down 50 notches. It's like so some people kind of like not into it.
I just listened to that recently because I hadn't listened to it in a long time, and I'm like, this really isn't as bad as I remember it. Not as it's really not. It's not as good as the other two. But like,
I like the songs, like Bread and Water. I think is really good.
I dig it.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. I'll continue on the kind of death-thrash thing and go Possess 7 Churches. I'm going with The Exorcist because I think it's one of their most iconic tracks they ever wrote. I know that the song Death Metal is also on this. That's another really good one, but I'm going with The Exorcist because I just think it's an iconic track, especially with the intro that they put on it, horror inspired. I mean, this came out 1985, like way ahead of a lot of the other stuff that I got into later. And I got into Possessed like after I got into like deicide, like seeking out the most evil stuff I can find, and that's when I finally heard Possessed, and I was hooked. So, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Yeah, The Exorcist, that intro itself, just from
Yeah,
the thing
man.
from the movie, it's just awesome, man. That grabs everybody. I think my favorite track besides that one's what is it? Pentagram.
Pentagram. Yeah.
Yeah, Pentagram's a fantastic song. Fantastic.
Hit us, George.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with this band, which I just finished getting their other albums from, Unleashed.
Ooh, yeah.
And the last track, Revenge. It's so fast and awesome. I mean, he doesn't have the most guttural voice, but the way he sings it, Johnny and he still sounds exactly the same as he did from the first album up to the last album.
He's great.
But that song is just awesome song. I just love that one. It's just one of the the music slow down, they go fast. Every song's a little different. That was just one of their fast ones. It's like maybe 2 minutes long or something, but short and sweet to the point. You love it. That's my pick for that. Great band.
Nice.
Hit us, Barry.
All right. Going along the Death-thrash vein, I'm gonna go with Solstice, Transmorgified.
Ooh,
from the first
that's a great one.
Yeah, that's the intro to the album, and it's like it's in your face. You can't help but just go and just kick ass, listening to that song. And of course, Alex Marquez is on it as well. Fucking drumming is off. It's just off the chart. Got to see them with most of the band members. They did like a reunion tour back in 2014, and Alex invited me to go see them play in Brooklyn. So I actually met the original bass player from that album, and I actually had the first album with me, and I had all of them signed it. So the only one that was missing was what's this guy's name? The one that's in Cannibal Corpse now. The guitarist Garrett, I think.
Rob Barrett.
Yes.
Okay.
He was the original singer.
Yeah, he was in there, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was the singer and the guitarist in that first album. So he was the only one missing. So I had everybody except for him.
That's great.
So I something I hold dear to me. But that's again, heard that in high school, and then to be like, oh yeah, that's the guy who's in Malevolent Creation. I was like, what, for real? Oh shit! No wonder I love it so much. Great stuff.
All right, let's go to. I'm going to show some love to New York death metal here. I'm going to go with Morpheus Descends, Ritual of Infinity. This came out in 1992. It was their first record. And I'm going with Corpse Under Glass. I just love that, The opening line to Corpse Under Glass, frozen in this box. Like, just a lyric that I can never forget, It's a band that I got to see many times as a kid, and I got a lot of good memories of this record and of seeing those shows, so... Super killer. New York death metal.
Awesome. Nice.
Hit us, George.
Okay, now this song from this band, this is like this is the third album. This turned me on to the band. It's more like groove metal, I guess, but Entombed with Wolverine.
I love that. I love Wolverine Blues.
I love Wolverine Blues.
Death and roll.
They really went away more from the death metal from especially since Left Hand Path. But I love that to turn me on to the band. I got the album just for that song, and I was like, wow. It's a great song. I mean, video was on MTV of the Headbangers Ball all the time. I used to watch that.
Great song.
It's a great song.
That was a staple for us when we were kids. That record and that CD in my friend's car, like a lot of good memories.
It definitely changed the two albums after that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic album. I mean, it's people were the purists, of course. The pure death metal purists were kind of chugging it, but it is a really good, catchy album.
It's a fun album.
It's their Pantera album.
Yeah, Demons is one of my favorite albums on there. Yeah. Demons. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
And, the music, the way they played in that album, if you think about it, it wasn't anywhere. I mean, maybe just they maybe tuned it a different way, but it was almost the same style that they play. It just, because you hear it when you hear like Left Hand Path, and you hear the way that they go in the Left Hand Path, and you hear that, you can still hear similar sounds. It's just maybe the way that they engineered it or something to make it sound a little less. I don't know, but I think that's one of my favorite albums. Wolverine Blues is a really, really good album.
Great album.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You're up, Barry.
All right. Well, since he went Entombed, I'm gonna go with what drew me to Entombed in the first place when I first heard him, Left Hand Path.
There you go.
That first song from Left Hand Path. I mean, I got the privilege of seeing them play live during that tour. They opened up for Morbid Angel. It was Morbid Angel, Entombed, and Unleashed.
Wow.
And I got to see, yeah, and so I got watching them do Left Hand Path live. It left me there stunned. Nobody moved in the pit. Everybody was just like engulfed on the way they were playing it, especially when they do that Phantasm ending.
Yeah.
They
Right?
did live to it. It was perfect. Perfect. It's like, wow. Seeing them back in their heyday, in their early prime, doing those things where they wanted to be perfect on stage, it went with the way you heard it on the CD. It just, as a kid, you're like, oh my God, it just sounds exactly the way I heard it. It was great. Yeah, Left Hand Path.
Awesome choice. One of my favorite album covers is that Left Hand Path cover.
Yeah,
I wish I had an actual cover to put on the wall for that one. That's just, I got like a little CD picture on my wall, but it just doesn't do it justice. That picture is just creepy as hell.
I'm going to go to Incantation on this one. I'm going the Ibex Moon. I think that the Ibex Moon is a essential death metal track. I really do. Now, that was released in 94 on Mortal Throne of the Nazarene, and this was kind of like during the same recording sessions of that, this record that was Upon the Throne of the Apocalypse. It's basically the same songs, but in a different order, and this is basically Mortal Throne of the Nazarene. But the Ibex Moon, one of their signature tracks, John McEntee, love that guy, huge fan, great band, Incantation.
I can't believe that guy sings like he does and talks like he does. He talks like he's such a quiet voice that he sings like that. I'm like, how does he do that? It's amazing. Crazy. All right.
What you got, George?
Right. I'm going with Answer to Me from Benediction.
Nice.
I love the bass in it, the way it starts with the bass. Dun, 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 dun. And when it goes into the song, it just grooves through the whole song. I think it's an underrated album, I think. And I think it's just one of their better songs. It's one of the ones that resonates with me. The whole album I think is really good, but that song just always turn it up when it comes on. I'm listening to it. I'm like, this awesome song, great band. I mean, I don't think anything new coming out soon, but hopefully it's been a couple of years since the last one. But the last one I thought was good too. I
thought the last one was really strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Shoot, Barry.
All right. Since I went with we talked about Entombed Left Hand Path, let's go with Dismember, Override the Overture.
Yes, that was on
that like an ever flowing stream. Yeah, that now it's funny that those were the same artists who did the Dismember cover and the Entombed cover. Am I right?
This Dan Seagrave?
I think it's the same. I think it's the same artist.
I think it's Dan Seagrave did that.
I could be wrong. I just know that when we were young and those albums came out, Left Hand Path and like an ever flowing stream, people were assuming that both albums seemed to have connected. If you looked at the little drip of water that was coming off the tomb from the Left Hand Path and going down, and it looks like it's coming down like an ever flowing stream to Dismember. Right. I could, it was just some weird conspiracy theory we had as kids, but I don't know if it ever was true. But yeah, that Dismember, you can't go wrong with Dismember. That was a great, great first album, and they still fucking kick ass live too, man. I got to see them live with Vader. That was, I think they were touring for not for that album. I think it was when they released Pieces.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when they released the EP, they were touring with Vader at the time. It was really, really good live, man. Great live band.
I never seen them live. They're a bucket list band for me, but they are playing in Brooklyn, I think, in August, and we got tickets. We're gonna go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Morpheus Descends is gonna be on that show. Vomitory is gonna be on that bill, and there's somebody else too.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool, man. It's gonna be. I think that they're doing the whole album, right? Of they're gonna do a whole album. Yeah,
yep,
it's gonna be cool. What we got?
I'm going to show some love to Long Island, New York, and I'm going to go with Suffocation. This was their first full-length, Effigy is Forgotten, but this track was also on the Human Waste EP, and that's Infecting the Crypts.
Yes.
I think it's one of the best death metal songs ever, in my opinion, and The one on Human Waste might even be better than this version, you know, to be honest with you. But I like them both. Such an influential band. I mean,
absolutely.
What else can be said about Suffocation?
That song, I think, was what gave birth to Slam.
Right.
That song itself, because that song with the way that everything's set up, and when you used to go watch their shows and you knew that part was coming, that part where the circle pit was going to go crazy, you knew it. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah. So we've done 11 rounds now. We'll do this last round. This will be our 12th. So let's make this last round count.
Okay.
What do you got?
Okay. I got In Shadows and Dust.
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a great record. It really is.
Yeah.
I saw the video on MTV or whatever, and I'm like, that's a great song. I gotta buy that album. Bought the album immediately after that. Got a whole bunch of their albums from that, but that song is just amazing.
Yeah,
it's a great, really good band. You know, that song just, I don't know. Shadows and Dust. If I could sing like that.
The album kills. It really does.
Yeah.
All right. My turn, right? Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna end it off with a disclosure. This pick is basically to go and piss off Drucifer. So if Drucifer, if you're hearing this, you already know why I'm gonna throw this song out there, because we discussed this also at we're having our little video with Vincent Crowley. I'm gonna go with Vital Remains, Dechristianize.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. So that now everybody know that Glenn Benton is on doing vocals for that album. He did that one, and Icons of Evil. But that album and that first song itself, to me, it's an iconic song. The lyrics are ridiculous. The music, the leads, the chorus, everything about that song is just...
Especially the intro, right? The intro to that is amazing. Yes. It really builds it up. You almost get like goosebumps hearing the intro to that.
Yeah. I heard from the old, I forgot the name of the movie. It was back in the 60s. And you know, and it just, everything about it just goes straight through with brutality. And okay, his thing was, he felt like some of those songs from Icons and Dechristianize, he would like them, but he felt the songs were too long. You know, so, but you know, I understood that, but I love the way I'm so engulfed with the way the music was going in these albums anyway.
Yeah.
Dave Suzuki, who played guitar and drums and bass actually on both these albums, and that guy is a phenomenal player.
And to me, I don't know how you feel about this, Barry, but that record, I felt like Glenn's vocals were more brutal than what he was doing in Deicide. Really, I mean,
I did too. I did too. I thought that because you know what, I think Vincent was talking about this too, where I think in this one he was not doing a Deicide album, so he had to do, I think, a little bit more structure with his vocals.
Yeah.
He couldn't do basically what he want, you know, when he does his double vocals or whatever. You know, he's not writing the lyrics. He's just saying, here's the lyrics, this is how we want it. Yep. So he's got to do everything with structure. But it came out really good, and both those albums are fantastic. To me, I thought, we all thought when the thing with the Hoffman brothers happened, and we thought maybe Deicide was going to be kaput. I thought he was going straight to Vital Remains, and I thought it would have been a good fit if he would have stood with Vital Remains, if that would have been the case.
I never even thought about that, really.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do the last one. I'll save the best for last. Nobody else said it, so I mean, I can't not put this song on here. So it's, you know, it's got to go on. It's the song that really, you know, inspired this whole fucking video, and that's Evil Dead by Death, Scream Bloody Gore. 1987, right. You know, so I think it's one of the most iconic and influential death metal songs ever. Many bands have covered it. You know, many bands cite this record as an influence for them, as well as Seven Churches. But amazing record. And this was just Chuck Schuldiner and Chris Reifert, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was like a two-piece back then.
Yeah.
And then Chris Reifert went on to Autopsy. So.
That's
ending
fantastic.
with Evil Dead.
Still my favorite Death cover too. The best cover I think they put out.
Right?
Ed Repka cover is awesome.
They should have kept the original logo.
Well, there you have it. You know, we did 12 rounds of these, and you know, nobody's wrong here. You know, different bands and different songs mean different things to different people, and that's why I wanted to have other people on to kind of get their perspective on death metal and what they think is legendary and the greatest stuff of all time. And I thank you guys for being on, man. It was a pleasure hanging out with you there for the last hour or so. And
really appreciate your having us. Thank you, Ray.
yeah,
Really
man.
appreciate
And
being on the
maybe
show.
we can
Thanks
do
for
another
asking.
one of these.
Definitely.
Maybe we can do a
Definitely.
thrash metal one or a black metal one next time.
That'd be cool.
So
Definitely.
Georgie's Room of Rock, Barry from That Goat Metal Show. Please check out their channels and subscribe if you're not already. They're doing great stuff over there. And we appreciate you hanging out with us on a Sunday. And we'll see you guys again real soon. Have a killer rest of the weekend.